When you think of editing, you probably think about cutting visuals. But what if I told you the best way to level up as an editor is to get better at sound design? My name is Austen Menges, and I've been a pro editor for over 20 years, and I've been focused on editing broadcast TV commercials with budgets of $100,000 and higher. And when I started out, one of the things that helped me most was to sit behind some editors who were ahead of me. So in this series, I'm doing just that. So I am not going to cut. I am going to let the camera roll while I work on sound designing a scene live. And so you've actually seen, if you've watched the previous couple of videos, you've seen this exercise completed, but now I'm starting again. So I have worked through the sound on the scene before, but this will be a fresh take. So I'm going to be looking at the scene, downloading sounds, placing them in, and I'll even talk about some sound mixing levels because I've gotten a lot of questions about that recently. So let's work on the sound for this scene and have a little chat. Now, first, I have the music already selected and edited to the scene. I'm going to make a different video on how I go about selecting music and editing the music. And maybe before we dive into the sound selections, let's give the scene a watch with just music. Okay, that's our scene, and the music is in the forefront because we do not have a voiceover in this spot. So we're dealing with music and sound effects. Now, one place I like to start in my sound search is with background ambiances. And if we take a look, we are in the forest or the woods. So I'm going to pull over Artlist, and if you want to practice along with me, which is pretty much the intent of these videos, you can go onto Artlist, download the footage, create your own edit, and then search for sound effects yourself. I will leave links below in the description. So here I am in my Artlist sound effects site here, and I'm going to just be real simple to start. I'm just going to type in the word forest, and I just want to hear some of the different things they have going on that come up first. Let's take a listen. That's pretty cool. It's not what I'm looking for. I kind of like that. I'm going to grab that first one we heard. I'm always downloading the WAV file just for a little higher quality. I also grabbed this one. Oh, this is really nice. I like the quality of this one, and I think if I make the level low enough, could sit nicely in the background. Okay, and then I want to try a different search. I'm going to put in nature, and this time I'm going to add the word ambience. Let's see what different types of sounds come up. Okay, that's pretty cool. Got an ocean there, not right for our project. And then one way to find different sounds is to add a simple adjective to the end. So quiet, let's add quiet, nature ambience quiet. You could also do nature ambience loud. And you'll see already, look how quiet this waveform is. Barely anything's happening. It's kind of nice. Nice simple ambience. This one seems pretty loud actually. just by the looks of it. Nope, don't want that cricket. I really like this one for some reason. I am going to download that, and let's pull it in. And I'm going to show you what level I might set an ambience at. So these files are going into my downloads folder, and for the sake of time, I am just going to pull them straight into my Premiere Pro timeline. Let's audition a couple. Just going to pull that in, and this one, and let me make these audio waveforms a little bigger for you. And the S here in Premiere is soloing, so it's not going to play the music. In fact, I'm going to mute the music, and I'm going to solo this track. Okay. And we don't want it to hear the start, so I just cut off a little bit at the end, and then I'm just going to chop the ends off here so it goes throughout the whole piece. And then I also want to hear this other one we have auditioned. I do like those birds. I'm going to stick with this for now. So I'm going to mute this. I disabled that other one, but I'm going to leave it in just in case we want to go back to it. And I got a lot of questions about sound levels, which can be a challenge. I totally get that. And what you want to do is you want to become really friendly with your sound meter. So this is measuring sound in decibels. That's the measurement for loudness of a sound. And for a background ambience, let's see where it's hitting just when I pull it in. It's peaking around -20. A lot of the times it's down by -24. And that's actually in a good ballpark, okay? So I might just leave that there. Okay, great. So let's just leave that in and let's start thinking about specific sound effects. One way I like to look at this is I watch each shot and I think to myself, what is the sound of the shot? And I'll sort of have a little creative exploration in my head, and I'll start searching. So for me, simple enough, I see footsteps in the first shot, and I think it would really help bring the shot to life if we heard the crunching of the leaves. So let's pull back over to Artlist, and let's put in footsteps, leaves. Sometimes you just type what you see and you get lucky. Those are quite good. Let's listen to a couple more. For me, those are good too. Two nice options. Okay. For the sake of time, we will grab those and put them in because we will have to do a little bit of syncing. All right. Let's grab this and let's take a look. So you can see each footstep. So it's kind of starting, that's kind of the first footstep. So we might just move that over. Let's just see how that looks. Okay, then the second footstep happens faster. I might move to a separate track. And then we kind of have this third quick footstep. Kind of like he shuffles his feet a little bit. So that could work. Then we have him getting on the motorcycle. And this is where I want him to start up the bike. This is kind of the beginning of the piece. And this is funny, but because I did this, I released this video already with my first pass at sound design, and I posted it. I got a lot of YouTube comments that I used a car engine sound on a motorcycle. And this is something I wanted to talk about because I actually agreed with the comments. However, it's always a fine line because film kind of suspends reality. So there is some creative license allowed, in my opinion, where you might want to use a sound that strikes a certain emotion that's not exactly true to life. Like for instance, let's say I wanted to add some bird sounds that I might add later. And I put in a certain kind of sound that's from a robin and it doesn't live in this particular wooded area. A viewer might say, how dare you put in the sound of that bird? It doesn't even live in that part of the United States or wherever it's filmed. So I think sometimes it's actually okay, and you kind of have to ignore comments like that because it's so specific. However, in this case, I think I missed the mark by putting a car engine with the motorcycle. So on this pass, my hope is I'll redeem myself and we will find some two-stroke engine sounds for the motorcycle. And the reason I moved to the car is because the car sounds were giving me the feeling I wanted, and the motorcycle sounds were not. So let's see if we can search for a motorcycle turning on that works well for this. Let's do motorcycle start. Okay. And now, who knows, I might get comments if I put in the wrong type of motorcycle. I might get comments on that too, but I think we're going to get a little closer. Okay, Ducati. That sounded fine. That actually had a pretty good quality to it. Okay, so that's a sports bike. And then sometimes you can go into these specific, collections. Because if I start with the Ducati, maybe we actually do want the same type of bike the whole time. So let's see if I look up motorcycle Ducati, if there's a lot of different sounds we can grab. So I think that's the sound I just grabbed. Okay. That's cool sound. I know a place I might want to use that kind of little rev. No, that's not right. So now we're to scooters. Okay, nice. So we want this. That's that same Ducati. I do like, this kind of sounds like a faraway motorcycle sound. I think I might have a good spot for that. I like the motorcycle passing. I think there could be a cool spot for that. Okay, let's grab some of these. We'll just try to rough them in. Scooter. I sort of like the end of this sound. Okay, so we got a few there. So maybe we can play with putting in our motorcycle sounds. And now to get back to sound mixing a little bit. So we placed our ambience between kind of -18, -24 on the meters. For sound effects, specific sound effects, which I would put in a different category than ambiances, we're going to want to target something more like -12, -18 to -12. So sort of in this area. So if the ambiances are down here, we want these to be a little louder up here. And then music, we want to be in that kind of area as well when it's kind of the main event of the piece, which in this case it is because there is no dialogue. So let's listen to these footsteps and just see where they fall. Yeah, that's kind of in the ballpark. Now, I think I want to bring them down, so I'm actually using a hotkey to lower the volume of these 3 footsteps. And now let's unmute these. The music's muted. We have the ambience on in the background. And now let's drag in some of these motorcycle sounds. So let's see here. It says our motorcycle starting up. And I was kind of thinking it could happen. Kind of want it to start right there. right before he gets on the bike. So he's kind of touching the handle, and the startup sound kind of, let's see here. Okay, that's cool. Let's see what else we got. I'm just gonna solo this. All right, that was a misfire there. That was leaves. Let's go back to the Ducati. Okay, we got that in. This is motorcycle skidding. I want to see what this sounds like. Oh, that's cool. I kind of like the idea of it hard cutting to this sound. I might shave a little off the front, and I might just hard cut this. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, I actually like that little rev. I had this idea for it to rev when he starts the wheelie. So I'm gonna move this over here. And so just skidding, let's see. That's that. And I'm just dragging stuff in. Pretty messy, but we'll clean it up as we go. I think I like the end of this. That's a lot of revs. Okay, let's see. Maybe he revs when he... Maybe we cut out the second rev. Let's just see what that's like. Put a fade on that. Maybe he revs in this, and then it gets quiet. These are just some ideas. I'm just riffing. Now, this could totally be a disaster. I'm not going to edit this actual video. I'm just going to post it as if it's a live stream, which I might do in the future. And if you like this format, please also give it a like to tell the YouTube algorithm that this is something you guys want to see, because I can always do more of these. Okay, we have another rev up. Okay, that's the same. Motorcycle turn off. That's interesting. I do like that. I kind of want this feeling that the motorcycle kind of turns off before this quiet section. So I might just leave that there. Then we have that double rev here. That's a really cool sound. I actually have an idea for this shot. I kind of want like a whoosh sound or a wind sound. But I love the idea of this passing sound when maybe he passes here. So this is turning out a little different than my original sound design pass, which is cool because I recommend practicing, experimenting, trying a lot of different things. Let's see. Nice. That's cool. Then I want kind of this quiet part. And let's see here. I do want a sound. I might just put this revving sound in for when the wheel drops. I do want that to be a big moment. And then let's see if we got anything for the ending here. That's cool. Okay, now I'm working fast here. This is a little faster than I would live. I might be thinking a little more, but for the sake of time, I'm trying to go pretty quick here. So we got some motorcycles laid in. So I want to think about some different sounds. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick that I use a lot in edits. So we have kind of this background ambiance, which maybe we'll leave on, maybe we won't. But we also, when you're in nature, I think you want to, it's a good practice to find some individual bird sounds, because then you can place the bird sounds on specific shots. For instance, I think a bird sound here would be great. And then there's a place at the end. So So he goes by, and then maybe there's another bird. So let's find some specific birds. And we are in a forest, so I'm going to call them forest birds and see what pops up. Okay, just going to grab that. I want to listen to a couple more. Okay. It's a little grating. I do like that, actually. I'll move this back over here, and let's see what we got. Let's see what we have. I kind of like that percussive. Let's just let that be kind of at the end here. Let's see what this is. Actually, I like that a little more. So I'm just gonna go under it. I'm gonna disable. So I'm basically just saving an alternate option by disabling it and keeping it in the sequence, which I think is a good way to do it. I kind of want to split the difference. Actually, let me grab another part where the birds make a noise. Let's drag it to this little area over here. And so we'll call that done. And I want to lower the volume of these. Because I kind of want them to be somewhere in between the forest ambience birds and the specific sounds. So let's just lower them a bit. Yeah, that feels good. And let's listen to the one at the end. Nice. Okay, I think that is pretty neat. And one thing I wanted to say is that the more detailed you can be, the better. So instead of just laying in the forest ambience, we're taking it another step and getting some specific birds to lay in. And then we can manipulate the timing. And that is absolutely key. So let's keep thinking about what is the sound of each shot. Well, we have the engine turn on. Then we have this cool drive-by. I do want to do some sort of perspective shift here, like I did in my original version. So we'll think about that. And then for this shot, I wanted to look for some sort of whoosh or wind. So that's what I want to check next. Okay, and whoosh. Whooshes, okay. Let's just listen to some whooshes. That was too short. Okay, these are all too short. So this is a wonderful time to try adding an adjective, a simple adjective. Whoosh short, whoosh long. I want some long whooshes. It's exactly the type of whoosh I had in my head. I'm gonna grab it. That's really cool. It might sound a little over the top, but you'd be surprised if you lower the volume enough, something like that could end up working really well. Like, that's a little too horror sounding. Let's see. I like that. Let's see. A little too slow, actually. Nope. That's a guy breathing. So we don't want any of those. And you know what else I'm going to put in? I'm going to put in wind. That is a really cool sound. And we could even layer a couple of these, a whoosh and the wind. This is kind of a cool low rumble. I have an idea for it. Okay, I think we got enough stuff to try there. Okay, let's see here. So we got our birds in. So now I'm gonna bring in some of these whooshes. I'm just gonna put them all at the end here, actually. Try to speed this up for you guys. kind of like coming in a little late in this whoosh. And one place I had for it is I want it to get really quiet when we get to this part. So I really want this to be lowered. I also want to cut out the bird ambiance. So I might disable that. Okay, so that's cool. Oh, this is really cool too. So I might just grab a piece of this. I might just try this instead of those whooshes I had. Or that one whoosh I had. Might just disable that and see kind of what this feels like. Okay, did you hear that little pop when it cuts to this? We will just do this now. We can put a nice little 2-frame crossfade. So I have a hotkey to do that. Added a nice little crossfade to all these sound effects. Pop is gone. So I highly recommend that. That's cool. And so some of these faster whooshes, that's really cool. I think I'm going to try one over here. The bike goes by really fast. But we got to go way lower. So see, it might be a silly sound if it's too loud, but you'd be surprised when you try it in the mix. Sometimes they work. Okay. And then part of this perspective shift, I think I want to try more of our kind of really cool low-end whoosh under this close-up to try to get a sense of that perspective shift. Yeah. Really low. And then I kind of want an airy wind. Let's unsolo that. And kind of like this part of this for this shot, where we kind of cut out of the bike sounds and switch to kind of wind. I'm going to drag out the bike here. Now this brought up a little rev, which I don't think will work at the end of this. So what I might do is see what we have in this waveform, and then I might just get rid of that rev, clean it up a tiny bit. Okay, so that's cool. It's probably too loud. Now we might want just a slight bike rev. I think in my first version, I didn't have any motorcycle sound in this section, which kind of had a cool effect. But when I watched it back, I was like, you know, a slight motorcycle sound would have been cool. So we kind of just we don't really want it idling. Now I'm just clicking through these different motorcycle sounds. I guess I didn't really find one that was sort of just a... You know, this actually might work. Really quiet. And then it kind of gets loud toward the end of the shot. Let's just see. And then we'll just make it really quiet. We'll put that fade on. And I'm just going to slide it so it's... This was not in the right spot. Okay, cool. And we're going to find an impact sound because I want this to be a big moment where the wheel hits the ground. And the word impact is a good one to have in your head because that is a good way to find all sorts of things. I will refine it as soon as we listen to some of these. So these are probably going to be a little crazy. Okay. So I'm going to look for body fall. Okay, so yes, that's a body fall, but I sort of just want that kind of sound for when the wheel hits the dirt. And so you would be surprised, maybe, on what you can dig up to kind of give this impression. Okay. So we are just going to line this up and see how it feels and sounds. So there's his wheel hitting the ground. Oops. I just want it to come on right there. Just hard cut it. So soloed. Pretty cool. I think that sounds pretty good. I might do a longer search if I was working on this for a commercial, but for our purposes, that's great. And speaking of dirt, there are several places where dirt is flying up, like in this shot. So I think that's maybe the last thing I want to look for to try to add to this. Let's just see, what would we call this? What if we just type in dirt? Okay. Oh, falling dirt. See the end of that? That's really nice. But just the ending. So when you listen to a sound, you gotta even think about it in terms of, oh, maybe I just want to use the end of that sound or just the beginning of that sound. You don't have to use the whole thing. And I don't think we grabbed this one before, so I might use that motorcycle sound at a different part. Okay. So, the dirt falling sound we just heard. So I don't like the beginning of that, but I love the end. I think I like it more on this shot, and I want it to be really quiet. So I'm lowering the volume with my hotkey and adding a crossfade. And then we had this sound. I want to listen through what we have so far before I add in this last motorcycle sound. I have a feeling there's going to be a gap. So let's see what we've got. So this motorcycle start stopped way too soon, so we're going to drag it out. Okay. And then this rev would make more sense on a cut, I think. So we can kind of, I'm just going to adjust as I go, put a little fade on there. I'm going to lower it as well. So one important thing with sound mixing levels, it's good to have some guidelines. I totally understand why you would say, oh, please give me the exact decibels to have all my sound effects at. But at the end of the day, it is about using your ears. There's an old saying in music, if it sounds good, it is good. And that applies to sound mixing as well. But for your initial guidelines, just to reiterate them, you know, negative 18 to 24 is kind of one zone. Negative 12 to 18 is another, negative 6 to negative 12 is another, and you always want a voice when you have it to be that top, the top category, the loudest thing in your mix. But in our case, the music is going to be driving the piece and these specific sound effects. So that was a little tangent. Let's see where we ended up with this little section. Okay, not perfect, but we don't have time for perfection. I did like that feeling. Okay, so the dirt sound I like, but it doesn't make sense on this slow-mo shot. To me, in my taste. I think I want to add it here where the bike flies by. And I'm going to make it a little quieter. That felt good. And let's see. I want the rev, which I can actually see in the waveform right here. I want it to happen right when he's lifting the tire. Okay. And now I wish we had an easy way to continue. Let's see. I might move this. Crossfade here. Crossfade here. That's not perfect. Let's see. You know what I might do is just duplicate this sound and see if we can get away with it. And put a bigger fade on here. Oh, we cannot get away with it. Let's see what we got at the beginning of this. Okay, maybe this will be something we can do. Okay, changing sounds is a little rough. We can actually change the sounds on a hard cut. Maybe it'll be a little bit better. Okay, that's cool. I want this. Yeah, I wanted this end of this shot to kind of lead us in to this cool thing we have happening here. And you know what? I want to leave back on the birds, so I just turned them back on. But I want to lower them a lot, as if it's a perspective shift. Okay, so we have a lot going on here. This goes too long. Okay, I'm gonna take out the motorcycle sound, I think. Yeah, I'm just gonna have this eerie wind, and I'm just gonna have it like that. And I think the music will kind of fill in the gaps. And this spot felt a little empty, so I'm glad we saved this little sound. Just gonna put that in. Yeah, something like that. Give it a little more head and make it quite a bit quieter. Yeah, let's see. I really want it to... Yeah, I think it needs to still be a little quieter. I also just want it to end, put some fades on it. I want it to end on this shot. Kind of like in my contrast exercise that you might have already seen. Hard cutting to a different sound can have a cool effect. So that's what I'm going to try here. And this one maybe... I wish I had like a dirt sound that was longer. I don't think I found anything like that, but... I kind of want something for this shot. I wonder what we got here. Okay, that's actually pretty cool. I'll probably get some comments that that's not what the motorcycle is doing. And I totally agree. If we had more time, we would find more realistic sounds for what the motorcycle is actually doing. And the reason I agree and love those comments so much is that that's very much the type of comment you would get from a client. Especially if this was an ad, for instance, for a motorcycle brand, you would have to be very specific in what sounds you put in, because the audience watching the ad are motorcycle fans, and you don't want to take them out of the ad. Okay, so I kind of like that. All right, I thought the last birds were a little loud. So what we're gonna do now is let's just watch it through with just the sound effects, and then we'll watch it through with the music turned back on, and we'll see where we landed. And then I'm gonna do one last thing at the end to show you a little trick. Okay. Okay, that's pretty cool. So a couple notes I want to tell myself. I didn't like how This motorcycle sound kept going when we had a new cut. So I'm gonna mute that. I also didn't love how the nature ambience stayed on the whole time. I think I want to find some places to cut in and out of it. So I might go out of it there and bring it back in. So I might disable that part of it. I liked that. And then I kind of wanted to cut out during this slow-mo shot. I want to lower the sound of this a little bit, lower the sound of the footsteps. And now let's watch it with the music. Okay, in my opinion, I left purposefully the music was on a little low because I wanted us to hear the sound effects, but now I want to raise the level of the music. I want it to be more the star of the show. And before I do that, I'm going to duplicate the sequence, save it as a new sequence before I make a big change. So that's open. Yeah, so I'm just going to select all my music here and raise it up 6 dB. Okay. Then I'm also going to do something. I'm going to add a compressor, and your editing software probably has some built-in audio effects. So on the mix track, you can add a compressor, and that basically squashes the loud sounds and turns everything up. So it creates less dynamics, but it can really help you. Especially it can add a limiter so you don't peak at all. So I like the multi-band compressor in Premiere, and we'll just turn it on the broadcast setting, and I'll do a -1 dB peak. And now let's see that I made those shifts, and I'm actually going to turn everything down a little bit. But now I've changed the relative levels of the music and the sound effects, and let's just see what we have. All right, I think we'll stop there. I would consider that like a quick first pass. I think we've been on for about 45 minutes. If you like this type of video, again, please give it a like, and you should maybe check out my free editing guide, which you can grab at the link in the description. And if you want to go further with all this stuff, I also have an editing course where you will work on a real assignment. I have a whole lesson on sound design that actually goes into a 40-track sound design that I did for this really cool high-budget short film called Treasure Imagination. So check that out as well. And if you want to see me take a pass at the editing for this particular project, you should watch this next video. Thanks for sound designing with me today. I hope yours turned out neat, and it gives you a place to start that you can refine and maybe use it on your reel or just for practice. And thanks again for joining, and happy editing.